Amara was halfway through explaining why Earth mammals were terrible at survival when the skylight exploded. Glass rained down like glitter at the world's worst party. The Vryn younglings in the front row squeaked and dove under their desks. The Talarian kids just blinked their 6 eyes in unison, unbothered. The human students scrambled backward, chairs screeching. And then the thing landed. 12 feet of muscle, claws like kitchen knives, teeth that belonged in a nightmare, not a classroom. Its skin was mottled gray and black, slick with something that might have been blood or oil or both. It crouched in the center of the room, breathing hard, yellow eyes scanning. Hunting. "Oh," Amara said. "That's new." The creature's head snapped toward her, then past her, toward the Vryn younglings, still huddled under their desks, smelling like fear and whatever weird pheromone their species leaked when terrified. The predator moved. Amara moved faster. She didn't think. Thinking was for people who wanted to live. She threw herself between the creature and the kids, arms spread wide like she could somehow be a wall. She had a ruler in one hand. Plastic. 12 inches. Utterly useless. The predator stopped. Stared at her. It made a sound. Low. Curious. Like it couldn't quite believe what it was seeing. "Not the kids," Amara said. Her voice didn't shake. That was impressive, considering her legs absolutely did. The creature tilted its head. Its jaw opened, revealing rows of teeth that definitely didn't belong on anything registered as negotiable sentient by the Galactic Council. It took a step forward. Amara didn't move. Behind her, one of the Vryn younglings whimpered. The predator lunged. Amara swung the ruler. Wraithcar arrived 30 seconds too late. He'd been 3 floors up, trapped in a diplomatic meeting that felt more like torture when the alert came through. Escaped predator. Krevthun species. Hostile. His blood went cold in a way it hadn't since the war. He ran. His guards barely kept up. By the time he reached the classroom, it was over. The predator was dead. Its throat torn open, body slumped against the wall in a pool of dark blood. A fire extinguisher lay nearby, dented and cracked. A broken desk leg jutted from its ribs. The walls were scorched. The floor was chaos. And in the center of it all, surrounded by shaking alien younglings, was a human. Unconscious. Bleeding. Her clothes shredded. Her face pale. But alive. The younglings were huddled around her, holding her hands, crying in 6 different languages. One of them, a tiny Vryn with blue skin and trembling antennae, looked up at Wraithcar with eyes full of terror and awe. "She saved us," the youngling whispered. "She wouldn't run." Wraithcar stared at the scene. A human. A prey species. Fragile. Weak. No claws, no armor, no venom. She'd killed a fully grown Krevthun predator with office supplies and screaming. His species had legends about warriors like this. Warriors who fought predators barehanded and won. Warriors who chose death over retreat. None of those legends involved prey species. "Move her," one of his guards said. "Standard medical wing, Sovereign." Wraithcar didn't move. He looked at the human, at her torn hands, her bruised face, the way her chest rose and fell in shallow, desperate breaths. She'd thrown herself between a predator and younglings that weren't even her species. She hadn't hesitated. He reached up, removed his crown. The ceremonial weight of it settled in his hands. Forged from the bones of his ancestors, embedded with fragments of every enemy he'd ever bested. It was the symbol of his bloodline. His dominance. His right to rule. He knelt. Placed it on the floor beside her gurney. The guards froze. "Sovereign, she will not die alone," Wraithcar said quietly. His voice carried the weight of an order. No one argued. Commander Okoye arrived like a hurricane with a law degree. She had 3 lawyers, 2 medics, a translator, and exactly 0 patience for alien nonsense. She stormed through the corridor, boots echoing, jaw set. "Where is she?" The Krevthun guards at the door didn't budge. They were massive, easily 8 feet tall, covered in scales and scars. One of them bared his teeth. The king has claimed her vigil. No one enters. Okoye stopped, stared at them, smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. That's cute. Move, or I'll move you. The guards didn't move. Okoye took a step forward. The door opened. Wraithcar filled the doorway. He was taller than his guards, broader, with eyes like molten gold and a presence that could stop a freight train. His claws were out. His jaw was set. He looked down at Okoye. Okoye looked up at him. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Okoye's eyes flicked past him, into the room, and landed on the crown sitting on the floor beside Amara's gurney. She blinked, looked back at Wraithcar. Did you just propose to my teacher? Wraithcar's expression didn't change. I honored her as a warrior. Your species does not understand what that means. Oh, we get it, Okoye said. You're just not used to prey kicking your apex ass. The hallway went silent. The guards looked horrified. Wraithcar's jaw tightened. His claws extended, scraping faintly against the doorframe. And then he laughed. It was a low, rumbling sound. Rough, like he'd forgotten how. It echoed down the corridor, and every single guard flinched like they'd been slapped. Because no one in the Crevthune Dominion had heard their High Sovereign laugh in 30 years. Okoye grinned. So, can I see her, or are we doing this the hard way? Wraithcar stepped aside. She is brave, he said quietly, and foolish, and she should not have survived. Yeah, Okoye said, brushing past him. That's kind of our thing. Wraithcar did not leave. His court lost their collective minds over it. Messages flooded in from across the Dominion. Military briefings were postponed. Trade negotiations stalled. 3 different ambassadors threatened to resign. He ignored all of it. He sat in a chair that was too small for him, beside a bed that held a human who should have been dead, and he did not move. The medical bay was chaos. Human doctors shouted at Crevthune medics about sterile technique and proper dosage. The Crevthune medics hissed back about prey species physiology and inadequate pain tolerance baselines. A Vrin biochemist tried to explain that human adrenaline responses didn't follow any logical pattern and got shouted down by both sides. Wraithcar stood, and the room went silent. Whatever keeps her alive, he said. His voice was quiet, absolute. I do not care whose method. I do not care whose pride suffers. She will live. The doctors exchanged glances, then nodded. They went back to work. Wraithcar sat back down. Across from him, Commander Okoye unwrapped a sandwich. She'd pulled up a chair, kicked her boots off, and settled in like she was watching a boring movie. So, she said, taking a bite. Do you do this for all the teachers, or just the ones who kill your cousins? Wraithcar didn't look at her. His eyes stayed on Amara's face, pale and still beneath the tangle of medical sensors. That creature was not my kin. Yeah, but you guys are all apex predators, right? Okoye gestured with her sandwich. Same species. Must sting a little that a human took one down with office supplies. Wraithcar's claws tapped once against the arm of the chair. It does not sting, he said quietly. It terrifies me. Okoye stopped chewing. Wraithcar finally looked at her. His golden eyes were unreadable. Your species should not exist. You are weak, fragile. You have no claws, no venom, no armor. By every measure, you should be prey. Yeah, we get that a lot. And yet, his gaze drifted back to Amara. She fought a predator that has ended wars, and she won. She got lucky. No, Wraithcar said. Luck does not scream and swing a fire extinguisher at something twice its size. Luck does not stand between death and younglings that are not even its own species. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. She chose this. That is what terrifies me. Okoye studied him for a long moment. Then she took another bite of her sandwich. Yeah, she said. We're real good at bad decisions. The door hissed open. A Vrin youngling, one of the students from the classroom, peeked in, clutching something wrapped in shimmering cloth. Its antennae drooped nervously. I brought a gift, it whispered. Okoye waved it in. Come on, kid. She's not awake yet, but you can leave it. The youngling scurried to the bedside, placed a small data crystal on the table, and stared at Amara with huge, watery eyes. She didn't run, it said softly. Everyone always runs. She didn't. Wraithcar said nothing. The youngling left. 10 minutes later, another student arrived. Then another. Then 3 more. By the end of the first hour, Amara's bedside table was covered in drawings, data crystals, handwritten notes in 6 languages, and one very confused potted plant that nobody could identify. Okoye picked up one of the drawings. It showed a stick figure with wild hair standing between a monster and a group of smaller figures. The crayon work was terrible. The message was clear. "She's gonna love this," Okoye said. "Or have a complete breakdown. Could go either way." Wraithcar didn't respond. He was staring at the monitors, at the lines spiking and dipping in rhythms he didn't fully understand. And then the machines started screaming. Amara's vitals spiked. Her heart rate jumped. The monitors flashed red. Doctors swarmed. Okoye was on her feet. Wraithcar stood so fast his chair toppled backward. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Seizure," one of the human doctors snapped. "We need... Fix it. We're trying." Wraithcar moved to the bedside. His hand hovered over Amara's, massive and clawed and trembling. He leaned down, whispered something in his own language, low and guttural. The translator on his collar stayed silent. It didn't even try. Okoye stared at him. The machine stabilized. Amara's breathing evened out. The red lights faded. The doctors exhaled. Wraithcar straightened, returned to his chair, picked it up, sat back down. Okoye didn't ask what he'd said. She had a feeling she didn't want to know. Amara woke up to the worst headache of her life, and the distinct feeling that she was being watched. She cracked one eye open. Aliens. So many aliens. Doctors, guards, soldiers, and one very large predator king staring directly at her. She blinked. He didn't. "Did I—" Her voice cracked. She swallowed, tried again. "Did I die?" "Almost," Okoye said from somewhere to her left. "You killed a Krevthun apex predator with a fire extinguisher. It was very stupid and very impressive." Amara tried to sit up. Pain lanced through her ribs. She gasped. "Don't," one of the doctors said. "You've got 3 cracked ribs, a concussion, and enough stitches to qualify as a quilt." Amara ignored him. She pushed herself up on her elbows, scanning the room. "Are the kids okay?" The room went silent. Every single person stopped, stared at her. Wraithcar leaned forward, his massive frame blocking out half the light. "You nearly died," he said slowly. "You ask about the young?" Amara blinked at him, genuinely confused. "Yeah? That's the job?" The translator on Wraithcar's collar made a faint buzzing sound, then went quiet. He tilted his head. "What is the job?" "Teaching," Amara said. "Keeping kids safe. You know, the thing you're supposed to do when you're responsible for small, squishy beings who don't have claws?" Wraithcar stared at her. Okoye snorted. "Oh, this is gonna be good." "Your species," Wraithcar said slowly, "would sacrifice themselves for young that are not their own bloodline, not their pack, not their kin. Well, yeah, they're kids. That is not logical." "It's not supposed to be logical," Amara said. "It's supposed to be right." The translator buzzed again. "Gave up." Wraithcar stood, reached down, picked up his crown from where it had been resting beside the bed. The room held its breath. He turned it over in his hands. The bone fragments glinted in the sterile light. Then he placed it in Amara's lap. Amara stared at it, looked up at him, looked back at the crown. "What?" "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Amara said, trying to hand the crown back. Wraithcar didn't take it. "There has not." "Oh, this is going to be amazing paperwork," Okoye said, grinning. Amara turned to her. "What does this mean?" A Krevthun advisor stepped forward, looking like he was about to pass out. He was smaller than Wraithcar, with duller scales and nervous eyes. It means the High Sovereign has declared you an equal. Cool. I'm a teacher. I don't need a crown. The advisor made a choking sound. You don't understand. No one refuses a sovereign's honor. It's never happened. Well, it's happening now. Amara tried to shove the crown back at Wraithcar. I've got lesson plans. I can't be walking around with a skull crown. The parents will complain. Wraithcar caught her hand before she could drop the crown. His grip was careful. Gentle. Clawed fingers wrapped around her wrist like he was holding something breakable. You would refuse glory? He asked. I'd refuse a headache, Amara said, which this is becoming. You killed a Krevthun predator. I killed something that was trying to eat my students. That's not glory. That's Tuesday. The translator gave up entirely and just started beeping. Wraithcar released her hand, stepped back. His expression was unreadable. You are unlike anything I have encountered, he said quietly. Yeah, I get that a lot too. The advisor's communicator buzzed. He glanced at it, went pale. Sovereign, the Galactic Council is calling. Okoye's grin widened. Oh no. The advisor tapped his screen. A hologram flickered to life. Some bureaucrat with too many eyes and not enough patience. This is an official summons, the hologram said. The human known as Amara is to be detained pending investigation into the unauthorized killing of a registered sentient predator. She is charged with destabilizing interspecies hierarchy and… No, Wraithcar said. The hologram blinked. Excuse me? No. You cannot simply… Wraithcar leaned into the hologram's line of sight. His eyes glowed, his claws extended. No, he said again. The hologram flickered, went silent. The call disconnected. Amara stared at him. Did you just hang up on the Galactic Council? Yes. You can do that? I am the High Sovereign of the Krevthun Dominion, Wraithcar said. I do what I wish. Okoye laughed so hard she nearly fell out of her chair. Amara looked down at the crown in her lap. I'm going back to sleep, she said. When I wake up, this better all be a really weird dream. She closed her eyes. The crown stayed exactly where it was. The Galactic Council. Chamber looked like someone had tried to build a courthouse inside a cathedral and given up halfway through. Massive columns carved from stone that predated faster-than-light travel. Holographic displays flickering alongside ancient tapestries. Delegates from 23 species sat in tiered rows, all of them looking deeply uncomfortable. At the center of it all, behind a crescent-shaped bench, sat the council arbiters. 8 beings, 8 species. All of them looking at Amara like she'd just tracked mud across their carpet. This emergency session has been convened, the lead arbiter announced, to address the unauthorized killing of a registered sentient predator by a human civilian. Okoye, sitting beside Amara, raised her hand. Self-defense. Next question. The arbiter's facial tendrils twitched. The human had no authority to… She's a teacher, Okoye interrupted. The authority is, protect the kids. You want to arrest her for that? Murmurs rippled through the chamber. A Talarian delegate stood. The issue is not self-defense. The issue is that a prey species killed an apex predator. This destabilizes centuries of established hierarchy. Oh no, Okoye said flatly. Heaven forbid we destabilize your hierarchy with survival. The predator was registered as sentient, another delegate added. Negotiations were an option. Amara leaned over to Okoye. Was I supposed to ask it nicely to stop eating children? Apparently. A Vryn ambassador rose, trembling. The human provoked the creature. Our analysis shows… Your analysis, Okoye cut in, shows that a predator broke into a classroom full of kids and started hunting. What part of that sounds like provocation? The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted over each other. Translators glitched trying to keep up. The lead arbiter slammed something that might have been a gavel, but looked more like a crystal skull. Order. The council recognizes the dangers present, but the precedent… Wraithcar stood. The chamber went silent. He'd been sitting in the back, surrounded by his guards, so still that half the delegates had forgotten he was there. Now he rose to his full height, and the entire room seemed to shrink around him. "The predator," he said, his voice low and cold, "was mine." The lead arbiter blinked. "Sovereign, we were not aware. It escaped due to my ambassador's negligence. It was poorly contained, improperly monitored." His golden eyes swept the chamber. "The human acted with honor. You will not touch her." A delegate in the third row found their courage. "You cannot claim jurisdiction over—" "I am not claiming jurisdiction," Wraithcar said. He took a step forward. His claws scraped against the stone floor. "I am declaring war if you proceed." Nobody moved, nobody breathed. The lead arbiter opened their mouth, closed it, tried again. "Sovereign, threats against the council are well within my right when you threaten one under my protection. She is not, she is now." From the back row, barely audible over the rising panic, a hand went up. Amara's hand. "Can I say something?" she asked. "Or is this a dictator-only meeting?" Every head turned. Wraithcar gestured toward her. "Speak." Amara stood. Her ribs screamed in protest. The bandages around her arms itched. She was exhausted, annoyed, and so far past caring about protocol that she'd looped back around to polite. She looked at the council, at the delegates, at the cameras broadcasting this across 8 species networks. "You brought kids to Earth," she said. Her voice was steady, clear. The same voice she used when a classroom got too loud. "I signed a waiver saying I'd keep them safe. I kept them safe. If that's illegal, your laws are stupid." A delegate gasped. "You do not understand the complexity." "I understand," Amara said. "That every single one of you would have let those kids die while you assessed the situation. I didn't. That's the difference." She turned to Wraithcar. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "And you," she said. "Thank you for the crown thing. I appreciate it. But I don't need it. I just need you to fix your security so this doesn't happen again." Wraithcar inclined his head. "It will not." "Good." She turned back to the council. "Now can I go home? I've got quizzes to grade." The chamber was silent. Then someone in the press gallery started clapping. Then someone else. Within seconds, half the room was applauding. Delegates looked horrified. The arbiters looked lost. The cameras kept rolling. Okoye leaned back in her chair, grinning like she just won the lottery. The lead arbiter tried to restore order. Failed. Tried again. "This council will take the matter under advisement and—" "Vote now," Wraithcar said. "Sovereign, we cannot simply vote now." The arbiters exchanged glances, whispered among themselves. One of them looked like they wanted to cry. "All in favor of dismissing charges," the lead arbiter said weakly. Every hand went up. "Motion passes. This session is adjourned." The gavel came down. Amara sat back down. "Did I just win a space trial?" "You broke the internet on 8 planets, Okoye said. "Close enough." In the back row, a Talarian ambassador leaned over to their aide. "We should never have let them off their planet." The aide didn't argue. The courthouse steps were chaos. Press drones swarmed. Reporters shouted questions in a dozen languages. Security tried to hold them back. Amara just wanted to leave. Wraithcar appeared at her side, his guards forming a wall between her and the crowd. "This way." He led her through a side corridor, away from the noise. His footsteps echoed. Hers barely made a sound. They stopped in an empty atrium. Sunlight filtered through stained glass, painting the floor in fractured colors. "You refused my crown," Wraithcar said. Amara sighed. "I'm not a warrior. I'm a teacher. You are both." He turned to face her. "My people do not have a word for what you are." "That's fine. I barely have a word for it either." He studied her. His eyes were softer now. Less predator, more something else. "I will not take the crown back," he said. "It is yours, whether you wear it or not." Amara threw up her hands. "What am I supposed to do with a predator crown? It doesn't match my apartment. I can't wear it to parent-teacher conferences. What's the point?" The point, Wraithcar said quietly, is that my people will follow you now. She blinked. What? Not because you are strong. Not because you killed one of our own. He stepped closer. Because you are kind. And we have forgotten what that means. Amara stared at him. That's the weirdest compliment I've ever gotten. Wraithcar's mouth twitched, almost a smile. You will hear stranger ones. He turned to leave. Wait, Amara said. What happens now? Now? Wraithcar looked back over his shoulder. Now you go home. Grade your quizzes. Teach your students. He paused. And you keep the crown, because one day, you may need it. He left. The crown, because of course Okoye had smuggled it out of the medical bay, sat on the bench beside her, wrapped in cloth. Amara picked it up. It was heavier than she expected. The bone fragments were cool against her fingers. She shoved it into her bag. When she walked out of the atrium, 2 Krevthun guards were waiting by the door. They saw her. They bowed. Amara stopped. You don't have to. They bowed deeper. Okay, she muttered. This is my life now. She walked past them. They fell into step behind her. All the way to the transport. All the way home. And when she finally closed the door to her apartment, alone at last, she pulled the crown out of her bag and set it on her desk, right next to a stack of ungraded quizzes and a half-dead succulent. Weirdest week ever, she said to no one. The crown didn't answer. But outside, in the hallway, the guards took up their posts. And they didn't leave. Amara walked into her classroom on Monday morning and immediately regretted being alive. Banners hung from the ceiling. Handmade, glittery, enthusiastic banners that read, Welcome back Predator Slayer and Our Hero. And one very confusing one that just said, Fire Extinguisher Queen. The kids erupted into cheers. Human kids. Alien kids. All of them on their feet, clapping like she just walked onto a stage. Sit down, Amara said. Nobody sat. Sit. Down. They sat. Amara dropped her bag on her desk, pulled up her lesson plan, and pointed at the board. Today we're covering mammalian respiratory systems. Get your tablets out. A Vrin student in the front row raised a tendril. Miss, can we talk about optimal predator takedown strategies instead? No. But you killed one with biology. Now. A human kid in the back raised his hand. Miss, I made you a meme. Amara closed her eyes, counted to 5. Why? Because you're famous. He held up his tablet. The screen showed a picture of her, mid-swing with a fire extinguisher, captioned, Teachers when you mess with their kids. The class laughed. Amara did not. Quizzes, she said. Friday. All of you. The groans were immediate and multilingual. An alien student, some species Amara still couldn't pronounce, raised a claw. Miss, is it true you're going to marry the Predator King? Amara's brain short-circuited. What? It's all over the net. They're shipping you. They're what? Shipping. You know, like, hoping you get together. There's fan art and everything. Amara put her head in her hands. I'm going to quit. I'm going to fake my death and become a hermit. You can't, another student said. You're a legend. I'm a biology teacher. You're both. The door opened. Okoye walked in, grinning like the universe owed her money. She had a tablet in one hand and what looked like a very expensive bottle in the other. Guess what? She said. Amara looked up. I don't want to know. You're a meme on 15 planets. There's a drink named after you on Vrin Prime. It's called the Fire Extinguisher. It's bright red and makes you breathe vapor. She set the bottle on the desk. You're doing great. I hate you. You love me. The kids were staring. Okoye winked at them. Your teacher's a celebrity. Don't let her forget it. Amara was about to respond when the door opened again. This time, the entire room went silent. Wraithcar ducked through the doorway. He had to. Human architecture wasn't built for 8-foot predator kings. He looked around the classroom, at the banners, at the kids frozen in their seats, at Amara, standing behind her desk with her jaw hanging open. He held up a datapad. "I need your help." Okoye excused the kids. They filed out in stunned silence, whispering and staring. Amara sat on the edge of her desk. "You couldn't have called?" "This is not a conversation for comms," Reithkar said. He set the datapad down. His claws tapped against the screen. "The predator that attacked your classroom. It was not an accident." Amara went very still. "What?" "It was sent, as a test." He looked at her. "There are factions within the Dominion who believe I have grown weak, that my interest in your species is a liability." "Interest," Amara repeated flatly. "They want to prove that humans are fragile, that you cannot stand against us. If they succeed, they will push for war." Okoye, leaning against the wall, swore softly. Amara rubbed her temples. "So what? You want me to fight your civil war?" "No." Reithkar stepped closer. "I want you to teach them." "Teach who?" "My people." His voice was quiet, steady. "They do not understand mercy, or kindness, or why a prey species would die for young that are not hers. They see only strength, dominance. They cannot fathom what you did." Amara stared at him. "You want me to teach apex predators to care?" "Yes." Okoye started laughing. "This is either brilliant or the dumbest idea in galactic history." Amara looked at the crown on her desk. She'd been using it to hold down a stack of permission slips. She looked back at Reithkar. "Fine," she said, "but I'm doing it my way." 3 months later, Amara stood in front of a classroom full of Krevthun soldiers and wondered if this was how her life ended. They stared at her, claws resting on the desks, eyes unblinking. None of them looked happy to be there. "Good morning," she said. Silence. "Today we're going to talk about empathy." One of the soldiers made a sound that might have been a laugh or a threat. Hard to tell. "Empathy," Amara continued, "is the ability to understand what someone else is feeling, to put yourself in their position, to care about their pain." A soldier in the back raised a claw. "Why would we do that?" "Because one day," Amara said, "you'll be the weak one, and you'll hope someone protects you." The room went dead silent. Reithkar, sitting in the back corner like a very large, very dangerous student, didn't move. Amara pressed on. "Strength isn't just about who you can defeat. It's about who you choose to protect." Another soldier. "That makes no tactical sense." "Doesn't have to. It's the right thing to do." "What is right?" Amara smiled. "That's what we're here to figure out." The first week was brutal. They questioned everything, challenged every point. One soldier insisted that protecting the weak was evolutionary suicide. Another argued that mercy was just delayed killing. Amara let them talk, let them argue, let them wrestle with concepts their culture had buried under millennia of conquest. On day 5, something shifted. A young soldier, barely out of training, raised her claw hesitantly. "I had a littermate. Weak. Small. Our parents culled him before his first season." The room went quiet. "I was glad," she continued. "Proud even. He would have made us look weak." She paused. "But I still remember his face. And I wonder, if someone like you had been there, would he still be alive?" Amara's throat tightened. "Maybe. I don't know. But I would have tried." "Why?" "Because he was scared. And small. And that's enough." The soldier's claws retracted. She looked down. "That is not our way." "It could be," Amara said softly. They hated it. They also came back the next day. And the day after that. By the end of the first month, they were arguing with each other about ethics. By the second month, one of them brought her a ceremonial blade as a thank you gift. By the third month, the waiting list for her class was 300 names long. The breakthrough came during week 8. A decorated war hero, scales marked with ancient battle scars, stood during discussion. His name was Theknor. He'd led campaigns that conquered 6 systems. Teacher, he said. The word sounded foreign in his mouth. I have killed 1,943 enemies in combat. I have taken their territory, their resources, their pride. He paused. But I cannot remember a single one of their faces. The room was silent. I remember yours, he said. You, who killed one of us, who should have run. I have watched you teach for 8 weeks, and I do not understand. His claws tapped against the desk. When you faced that predator, you could have fled. Why didn't you? Amara met his eyes. Because running meant they died, and I couldn't live with that. But you nearly died yourself. Yeah, that is not logical. No, Amara agreed. It's not. Then why? She thought about it. About how to explain something that felt as natural as breathing to someone who'd spent their entire life learning the opposite. Because, she said slowly, the version of me that runs and lets kids die isn't someone I want to be. I'd rather be dead than be that person. Theknor stared at her. His translator glitched twice, trying to process that. You chose death, he said finally, over dishonor. I chose kids over myself. That is the same thing. To my people. He sat down heavily. You are the strangest warrior I have ever met. Amara smiled. I'm not a warrior. Yes, Theknor said quietly. You are. After that, something changed. The questions got deeper. The arguments more personal. Soldiers started sharing stories they'd never told anyone. Moments of doubt, regret, memories of the week they'd left behind. Amara listened to all of it. Wraithcar watched every session. Never spoke, just watched. Until the day a diplomat asked, why do humans protect the weak? It makes no tactical sense. Amara was about to answer when Wraithcar stood. The room turned. She is right, he said. His voice carried. Absolute. We have been strong for so long, we forgot what it cost. We forgot what we lost. He walked to the front of the room, placed his crown on the table in front of Amara. This is no longer a dominion. It is a partnership. His people stared. Some looked horrified. Some looked confused. One, in the back, looked intrigued. Wraithcar met Amara's eyes. We follow her now, not because she is strong, because she is kind, and we have forgotten how to be. Later, in the empty classroom, Amara asked, why did you really give me the crown? Wraithcar looked at her. Because you didn't want it. And that is why you deserved it. Galactic Newsfeed, 6 months later. Human teacher reforms apex predator empire. Experts baffled. Human response across social media. Yeah, sounds about right. Amara's classroom now held 40 students. Humans, Vryn, Krevthun, Talarians, species she still couldn't pronounce. They sat in rows, took notes, asked questions. She was still grading quizzes, still exhausted, still refusing interviews. The crown sat on her desk, holding down a stack of essays. Best paperweight she'd ever had. One day, a young Krevthun in the front row raised a claw. Miss, do you ever regret it? Fighting the predator? Amara didn't hesitate. No. You were scared. Someone had to. You could have died. Yeah, Amara said. But you didn't. The student looked down, nodded. After class, Wraithcar walked with her through the station corridors. Dignitaries bowed as they passed. Soldiers saluted. Kids waved. They see you as a queen, Wraithcar said. I'm a teacher. You are both. Amara sighed. Fine. But I'm not wearing the crown. It's heavy. Wraithcar's mouth curved, almost a smile. That is the point. They stopped at a viewport overlooking Earth, blue and green and impossibly fragile. Your people terrify the galaxy, Wraithcar said quietly. Not because you are strong, because you care when you shouldn't. You protect what cannot protect you. You sacrifice for strangers. He looked at her. That is a weapon no species knows how to fight. Amara watched her planet spin below. It's not a weapon. It's just being human. Yes, Wraithcar said. That is what terrifies us. Behind them, a group of Krefthun younglings ran past laughing. One stopped, waved at Amara, then kept running. Wraithcar watched them go. They will grow up different now. Because of you. Good, Amara said. Maybe they'll be less likely to eat people. That is the hope. They walked back toward the classroom in comfortable silence. And somewhere, in the cold bureaucracy of galactic space, an ambassador sat alone in his office, staring at a report. Assessment. Humanity Integration Status. He read it 3 times. Then he closed the file, poured himself a drink, and whispered to the empty room. They sent a teacher. One teacher. And she broke everything we thought we knew. He took a long sip. We should have built the wall higher.